Adam's like, but can we go back to the Garden of Eden? Like, can we try again? And God is like, no, but within the next 5,500 years, you're gonna be redeemed. All right, chill out, and leaves. It's interesting to me, though, that they don't, like, Adam lived, what, 900-ish years in the Bible? So not next 5,500, but he says this to comfort Adam, but it's true, he does plan on this. Even though they're starting to get thirsty, Adam is like, we are not drinking any of this water. If we ingest it, it is going to make our punishment worse. This water goes to the Garden of Eden, and we are not allowed to have it. We are not drinking any of this. So they go back to the cave, and the cave is dark, and they hate that it's dark. So they sit in the dark and reminisce about how great it was to be in the Garden of Eden. They both just cry all night long. In addition to reminiscing, Adam throws himself on the ground from grief, and Eve hears the thud, and it being pitch black, again thinks that he is dead. And it turns out he might actually be dead. She finds him as if he's dead, like a corpse. It says, and I guess he was dead from sheer being upset, because God has to send the word again to bring him back to life. Eve is speechless with grief. Before this, she's freaking out. They pretty much freak out and cry nonstop. Thinking about that fruit. That's what I told you. They do nothing but think about the fruit. Nobody stops thinking about the fruit this whole book, at least so far. The word comes and brings Adam back to life, and Adam's like, why is it so dark? This is terrible. Why did you put us in this cave? We can't even see each other. We didn't even know what darkness was before we left the garden. Why would you do this to us? Again, God is like, because you're being punished. This darkness, though, is not itself a punishment. This is just called nighttime. You're gonna grow to like nighttime. I know you can't see, I know it's scary, but you are actually going to look forward to nighttime someday, because during the daytime, you have to work to survive, and nighttime is when you get to rest. You are going to look forward to this. At some point, what if the fruit had mold on it? I don't know if it would grow mold while the tree was alive, if it was on the tree. But heck if I know, I don't think they knew what decay was, considering they didn't know what death was. They didn't know death or darkness or anything, so I don't think they would know what mold is. So presumably, yes. Adam is still pretty upset about this, even though God is like, look, it's not gonna last forever. This is just nighttime. It is for resting. Of course it gets dark, but the light's gonna come back, okay? It's gonna come back in the morning. And Adam still really hates the dark. He's like, can you put us somewhere where there is no darkness? Because this sucks. And God is like, the light is going to come back, but you're being punished. You transgressed my commandment. I'm gonna come down and save you at some point in the next 5,500 years. Deal with it, bye. And he leaves. For the whole next chapter, they're just really bummed about that. They just kind of sit there in their feelings some more and continue to cry until the sun comes up. The sun comes up and they can see now and they're less scared. They're like, oh, light, excellent. This is excellent. We were waiting for this. So they go outside and Adam looks at the sun rising and he feels the heat from the sunlight. He has never seen the sun before, ever. Not even in the Garden of Eden. I guess they just didn't see it. And so he sees this unimaginably bright light. Stop looking directly at the sun, Adam. It's bad for your eyes. And feels the heat from it. And he thinks that's God. He thinks God has come to incinerate him. And he's like, God is going to burn me up and incinerate me and set me on fire, and starts freaking out again. And the word comes back and is like, Adam, it's the sun. It's not gonna... Well, it will burn you if you're dumb about it, but like, look, it's not gonna burn you up. It's just the sun. This is what happens during the daytime. I feel like this could have all been avoided if God had like given them a handbook or something, but also writing and reading hadn't been invented yet, I guess. If light was dark and dark was light, left was right and right was left, what would happen to us? I don't know, man. Just you wait, wrong panda. Just you wait and don't you worry. So the word is like, it's the sun. This is called daytime. It's not gonna hurt you. Chill. It's all good, Adam. And leaves again. Now we come to chapter 17, which is the chapter of the serpent. This is gonna end well. So Adam and Eve leave the cave, and as usual, if hobbies are invented, it seems their hobby is just staring at the gate of the Garden of Eden. And I guess the cherub's just used to it at this point. They're not gonna go in there. He would stop them if they tried, but they just like to look at it and be sad. And the fruit of a tree, I am interested in fruit that gives you knowledge. How cool would it be if instead of studying stuff, you could just like eat some berries? Fruit you pluck from trees. That's awesome! I think we should do that. Instead of like having to study stuff, you could just eat some fruit. Fruit is excellent. Anyway, so they're staring at the Garden of Eden gate, just being bummed about everything. It's their second day of being mortal, and it still sucks. And they're like, man, how long do we have to do this? It gets worse though, because while they're looking at the gate, they see the serpent The one that became Satan. I guess there's no other serpent. I'm gonna close the window now. Because they don't ever, like, mention another serpent. And it's, like, hanging out at the gate, and they just kind of watch it crawl on the ground and eat the dust for a bit, just like God said that it should. He was like, upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. Apparently, before Adam and Eve fell, the serpent was the most exalted of all beasts, and now it was the meanest of them all. Like, as in the most humble. I mean, I guess it was pretty mean to tempt Eve, but they mean humble. And before it used to be the fairest of all the beasts, and now it was the ugliest of them all. And instead of feeding on the best food, now it gets to eat the dust on the ground. Instead of dwelling in the best places, it now lives in the dust and eats it, whereas it had once been the most beautiful of all beasts. All of the animals saw the snake and stood dumb at its beauty. The snake was the hottest animal, I guess. It was so beautiful, all the other animals just like stared at it like that is... wow. Except now, it's one of the other beasts, and it's the ugliest beast. The snake has also been severely punished. Also, God cursed it, and now it's venomous, which I feel like now you've given it a weapon. It's less of a curse and more of a risk. Also, because of this venomous nature, all the other animals flee from the snake because they don't want to get bitten. Smart move. Adam and Eve, though, don't know what's going on. And the snake has clearly been having its own emotional breakdown. I don't know if Lucifer is still possessing this snake. I don't know if he possessed the snake in the first place or if it was just like a follower of Satan. We also do see, I just realized, some parallels here between the idea that like Lucifer, the light bringer, is what Lucifer means, who in many stories was the angel who became Satan. Lucifer was one of God's favorites. He was one of the most beautiful of the angels. He was highly favored in heaven, and then he fell. Further than anyone has ever fallen ever. Further? Further. Metaphorically. I don't know. That's a weird grammatical distinction, and I'm gonna leave it at that and try not to be distracted. He does. So the snake's not happy, and the snake stands on its tail, and with eyes blood red, quote, it lunges at Eve, presumably to kill her. Adam just starts crying. He doesn't know what to do here. He doesn't really get the concept of death, and certainly not killing. So he's like, how do I stop this snake? I don't even have a stick to hit it with. He doesn't know how to kill it. He doesn't have a stick to hit it with, but Adam, quote, with a heart burning for Eve, grabs the snake's tail to stop it from hurting her. Well, he's mad because God cursed the snake to eat dust and have life suck because they listened. I don't think they really have a lot of self-awareness here, especially the snake. Everybody's just really mad. Adam is terrified, but he grabs the snake's tail, and the snake is like, it's your guys' fault that I'm like this. I am slippery and go up on my belly, and tries to kill them both. But God is like, enough, that's enough, and he sends an angel, and the angel takes the serpent. The serpent is no match for an angel. Nobody's any match for the angel. They're all like amazing warriors, I guess. The angel takes the snake and chucks it away from them and picks them up off the ground because they're freaking out. And while the angel's doing that, the word of God goes to the serpent and is like, you thought I punished you before? How dare you? Before I made thee to go up on thy belly, but I did not deprive thee of speech. But you're still causing problems, and you just tried to kill my humans, so you don't even get to talk anymore. And a wind came to blow from heaven by the command of God that carried away the serpent from Adam and Eve, threw it on the seashore, and it landed in India, specifically. I don't know. It landed in India. That's literally what it says. What would happen if God and Satan swapped jobs? I feel like If I asked that in the Middle Ages, I would be immediately burned at the stake. So the word is like, you thought I punished you before? You clearly didn't learn, and chucks it away to India. I guess there's no people in India yet, so. And Adam and Eve are now awake and crying again, and Adam's like, God, you promised us none of the animals would hurt us. And God is like, okay, yeah, I did, but I didn't bring the snake with because, first of all, you guys have already had a bad experience with the snake, and also I'm mad at the snake, so I didn't let it near you, but it's gone now, okay? I am with thee. Unto the end of the days I have determined on thee. God is like, it's not gonna hurt you. It's gone now. I am with you. I am watching, and I will keep all of my promises. I told you it's wild. I told you. But Adam is still crying, and he's like, can you take us somewhere where the snake will no longer get us? I'm afraid it's going to kill Eve like it just tried to. And he says, its eyes are hideous and evil. And God is like, don't be scared. Don't be scared. I'm not going to let it near you. It is far away from here. And Adam and Eve are like, thanks, man. Thank you for taking the snake away. You totally just saved our lives. I do not. It doesn't say this in the Bible. This is a book that was specifically rejected from the Bible. So Adam and Eve, God's like, all right. And Adam and Eve go wander by themselves some more. The heat of the sun makes them sweat. They've never sweated before. Miserable. Like, we're all used to having bodily functions. Yes, being too hot is uncomfortable, but humans are actually, like, the most efficient coolers in the entire animal kingdom. But it still kind of sucks to be too hot. It's uncomfortable. They're sweating for the first time in their lives, and they're like, this sucks. Not everyone. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This book was specifically rejected from the Bible. They're wandering, they're sweating, it sucks. It sucks so much that when they find themselves up on a ridiculously high mountain, they both throw themselves off a cliff. It doesn't say what they were talking about at this point, but I imagine it sucked. They're miserable, and they're full of guilt and shame still because they broke God's one rule, and they're like, no. So they throw themselves off the cliff. As you do, don't throw yourself off a cliff.